Y'all need to come and get these scooters in the way. How am I supposed to get that button over there with this scooter? Huh? Come get your scooters, Lime.
Impact this week's Arctic blast has had in states across the U.S.
And an American spacecraft reportedly going up in flames over the Pacific. We bring you an update on the failed moon mission. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
They're not compensated as elite owners, and the change forced austerity. May face a rebellion from those that need affordable transport. The problem is, like I said, these work in temperate climates. You want the heater on. A jacket runs off the battery. And if it's hot, you want the air conditioner running. The air conditioner runs off the battery.
What's your advice for EV owners? Should they keep their EVs? Should they switch to gas cars or hybrids if they're living in these areas that are extremely...
Well, the EVs, like I say, for the elites, like I say, it's a second car because they have low mileage requirements. And if you want a workhorse, you probably don't want an EV because there's challenging requirements of charging and driving range, and it's constantly on your mind. So if you have a need for a second car, an EV would be fantastic. But I don't think it's the workhorse vehicle.
If you're in California or more of these temperate climates, would you recommend that they go ahead and get EVs if they can afford it, as far as just the use of it alone, or hybrid or gas?
Well, that's a personal choice. And in fact, you're entering a different subject because now you get involved in, is it ethical and moral to support EVs? Recently, the and exploits and transparency the fact that we're exploiting people brought in and the
Blood diamond.
Another thing, back into hurricane, at least cars that caught fire after being exposed to floodwaters, they short-circuited. Is this another AVB?
Yes, some EVs from parking on structures, primarily because when a EV battery starts fire, it can't put it out. You basically all you do is cool it. It takes a lot of water to cool it down. And so some of these places around the world are concerned if an EV starts fire in an underground structure, they could burn down the whole structure before they get the fire out. And so, EV cars are a problem. Transporters. A lot of these cars are made in foreign countries and they're shipped over here. A lot of ships have gone down because the fire is starting. One had, I think, 4,000 cars on it. They're inexpensive cars.
Gap between the EU officials and China. The EU Commission president has recently some endured hours-long waits in the bitter cold.
And lastly, in Tennessee, even traditional gas-powered cars needed help. 2 horses owned by local Amish people pulled a stranded truck back onto the road on Monday.
An eyewitness said several trucks and cars passed by, not stopping to help. She added that her Amish neighbor rescued the driver without leaving the pasture. Temperatures in Nashville are also expected to rise again early next week.
And a plane skidded off the runway at the International Airport in Rochester, New York yesterday. Airport officials said 50 passengers and 3 crew members were on board when the aircraft slid onto the grass.
An American Airlines spokesman told CBS the jet exited the taxiway due to snowy airfield conditions. The jet left Philadelphia and landed in Rochester at around 4 p.m. local time. When the slide occurred, passengers were transferred by bus to the terminal. No injuries were reported.
Nearly 50 people across the country have died from the Arctic cold snap, with 95 million Americans under winter weather warnings.
In the last 7 days, since January 12th, local and state officials reported that 47 people have died due to cold-related conditions. Most of these occurred in Tennessee, Oregon, and Illinois. House lawmakers are looking to hear directly from Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin about why he didn't send a notification of his recent hospitalization. The House Armed Services Committee has asked Austin to testify in person before the panel on February 14th. The chair of the panel, Mike Rogers, wrote in a letter, quote, "Congress must understand what happened and who made decisions to prevent the disclosure of the whereabouts of a cabinet secretary," unquote. Austin and the Pentagon have been under intense scrutiny after a failure to quickly notify the White House or Congress that the secretary was hospitalized on New Year's Day. Austin was admitted to Walter Reed Military Medical Center following complications from a prostate cancer procedure in December.
And an American spacecraft has reportedly ended its journey in flames over the Pacific.
That's after failing its mission, trying to land on the moon.
A company called Astrobotic launched the spacecraft nicknamed Peregrine earlier this month. The company released this video today saying it was captured by the spacecraft.
A day after the launch, Astrobotic announced Peregrine would fail to make a soft landing on the moon that was due to a propellant leak in the first few hours of the journey in space.
The BBC now reports that the company decided to destroy the spacecraft while it was above the Pacific Ocean. And Japan's lunar lander, the Moon Sniper, has touched down on the moon, making Japan the third country this century to do so. But the condition of the spacecraft is still unknown. The unmanned spacecraft, known as the Smart Lander for investigating Moon, carries precision technology for a precise landing on a 100-meter landing site. The lander's goal is to study rocks in the Sea of Nectar, which could provide insights into the moon's origin. The JAXA broadcast said they are still checking on the status of the lander and would provide further updates. This achievement comes amid a new lunar space race among various countries to explore the moon and unlock its resources for future space exploration.
A flight attendant is charged with child pornography for allegedly filming children using the bathroom. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts identified him as Estes Carter Thompson III. It alleges that last year he used stickers to tape his phone to an open toilet lid right before a 14-year-old girl entered. But she caught on, took a picture of his concealed phone, and told her parents.
Authorities say they found 4 videos of kids using the bathroom on Thompson's iCloud account. American Airlines says it immediately removed Thompson from service when it learned of the incident.
An airplane was seen shooting out flames and sparks shortly after taking off. The mid-air accident was caught on camera. Take a look. Late yesterday, a woman out for a walk said she saw the plane and started recording. Turns out it was an Atlas Air cargo ship that had an engine problem.
According to flight data, the plane was in the air for only 14 minutes, with the issues starting about 3 minutes into the flight. Atlas says the plane was able to return to Miami International Airport and safely land.
There are no reports of injuries. Atlas Air says it will inspect the plane to figure out what caused the issue.
And more layoffs.
So the question, will the continuation during the year be the last one? Reporting from Capitol Hill, Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
No, it won't.
An uptick in illegal immigration into the U.S. A source in law enforcement says U.S. authorities at the southern border are apprehending around 4,000 a day.
And as Chicago tries to stop the flow from Texas, a transportation company is taking legal action. Here's the story.
A law enforcement source told CNN that authorities are now detaining around 4,000 illegal immigrants a day. This week's numbers mark an increase from earlier this month when there were roughly 3,000 apprehensions per day. But it's still far less than the 10,000 daily encounters that were observed at one point last month. Texas has been chartering buses to various sanctuary cities, including New York, Denver, and Chicago. But these cities have introduced legislation to restrict arrival.
We have reached a critical point in this mission that absent real significant intervention immediately, our local economies are not designed and built to respond to this type of crisis. We are literally building a system as we go along.
Some bus companies are taking legal action. Texas-based Wind Transportation filed a lawsuit against the city of Chicago. The suit says the rule violates interstate commerce and violates the constitutional rights of Wind's passengers. It states the ordinance is intentionally discriminatory. The bus company is also wrapped up in a legal battle with New York. Wind is among 17 companies that are being sued by the city for $700 million over transporting illegal immigrants from Texas.
Yeah, I remember illegal immigration.
Right. I mean, this is an ongoing story for a long time, right? And I think it's just going to be a long battle from here. But also with the cold weather, we should keep in mind that, there is a lot of suffering going on. When we spoke to on the show with another expert, she was saying that people that do not have a place to live, when they were outside of the Roosevelt Island, they were not able to get a room. There's a lot of issues with human trafficking there as well. So something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, and in the winter, you see all those thermal blankets at the border down there. It's really it's piling up because there's so many. Yeah.
All right, we have to wrap our show here, but we'll keep you updated with the latest information. Stay tuned for our News Today broadcast at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin. Various layers. Presidential complicated cases and things that during his presidency, Trump is on his situation to other presidents.
Like Obama dropped missiles and they ended up hitting a kindergarten or a school or an apartment house, and a lot of people were killed. Well, if that's the case, he's going to end up being indicted when he leaves office. He meant well. The missile went in the wrong direction.
A New York Times report from 2019 said the Obama administration killed between 60 and 110 civilians in over 500 airstrikes.
Trump also said President Biden could be prosecuted in the future if presidential immunity doesn't apply. He says that's because of Biden's handling of the Afghanistan withdrawal and America's southern border, both of which led to the deaths of civilians.
Trump is currently awaiting verdicts in federal cases in Atlanta and D.C. Both are alleging election interference at the end of Trump's presidency. And in related news, Trump will appear on the Washington state primary ballot. A judge on Thursday rejected the latest effort to disqualify the former president.
Trump said President prosecution doesn't handle Afghanistan and where led success.
The Washington ballot just stated the later
Trump can't pray judges dismiss the case. The Democratic Party is orchestrating these cases.
Washington officials have a January 27th deadline to print ballots. The state on March.
Nevada governor endorsed former President Trump as in a caucus month. Governor Joe Lombardo told the Nevada Independent he believes the economy and foreign affairs were most stable. He also said all purpose over.
Endorsed Lombardo during a 2022 run for governor. Nevada has 2 nominating contests next month. A primary state is requested to run because 21 law, and a caucus the Nevada State GOP is holding 2 days later.
The Nevada GOP ultimately assigns the delegates that matter to win the national nomination. They said they will only give the winner of the caucus the delegates. They said any candidates signing up for the primary would be barred from the caucus. Trump and Governor Ron DeSantis chose the caucus. Nikki Haley opted for the primary.
And around 180 congressional Republicans are urging the Supreme Court to keep Trump on Colorado's ballot. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senator Ted Cruz, and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise were who signed an amicus brief submitted yesterday.
They also argue that a state court has no right to circumvent Congress. That's because Congress is able to interject on Section 3 with a 2/3 vote up to the time a candidate holds office.
By both chambers of Congress over the next couple of weeks.
All right, and this bill kicks the can on funding the government to two separate deadlines on March 1st and March 8th. What obstacles will Congress have to face to avoid a shutdown then?
Well, you've articulated it well. They have two deadlines that they are facing. The March 1st deadline, which contains 4 different appropriation bills.
Order.
March 8th,
Shut it down.
remaining 8 appropriation bills. There are 12 that must pass Congress every year. And so I think there are conservatives in the House of Representatives and some in the Senate who are calling for reduced spending. And they aren't going to vote that above and beyond the spending that we saw in 2023. So those are some of the initial barriers. And then there is this open conversation of the crisis on the southern border and dealing with the millions of migrants who have illegally crossed into the United States since Biden came into power. And so Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, and Republicans and Democrats on the Senate side are going to have to confront these two questions should they be successful in funding the government for the remainder of the year.
All right, Ryan Walker, Executive Vice President of Heritage Action, thank you so much. President Biden said Thursday that Trump's 51-point victory in Iowa doesn't mean anything. Trump's lead this year was more than 2 times his lead in Iowa in 2016. What can we draw from Trump's lead in Iowa this time around, and what happened in 2016?
More than ever at this point in the election cycle. You know, back in the 60s, he was almost a novelty candidate. Oh, isn't that funny? He thinks he's going to be, the president or even be the nominee. And then later on, he wound up being just that. And for Biden not being concerned about his 51%, well, that's because Biden is quite obviously using the apparatus at his disposal to ensure that doesn't be vis-a-vis the popular vote, but rather, through litigation here, litigation there, and anything else you can trump up, if you will.
Sure, trump up, yeah. So now the co-founder of Home Depot said that he would give Governor Nikki Haley's campaign a nice sum of money, quote unquote, depending on how she does in New Hampshire on Tuesday. How many donors are thinking the way this guy is thinking, waiting until Tuesday to decide where to put their money?
Oh, I think a lot are, because right now it's still very close. Her and DeSantis are extremely tight back and forth, and you want to back the winner. So you kind of want to see where it's going to land. Like, so, okay, we had a first run, and we saw where that was, but it's still very tight. Will there be a bigger spacing now between the two potential nominees? So that's just being smart. And again, if it's real tight, they may wait another week. You know, they kind of want to see where it's going to land before they start. Even people with lots of money kind of want to be careful where they put it. So it makes sense that he's waiting. I think he'll have a better idea. And then, of course, he probably throws money to Trump's way on the side also. Got to cover all your bases. Maybe you split it up, give them all 3. Here, you get a little, you get a little, you get a little. Help me out when I need it.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I can get a little. What could more money do for the trajectory of Haley's campaign?
Well, Haley's got a lot of money in her campaign already, but obviously it helps. You need money to win. You need money for the advertising. You need money to reach voters. You need money to run campaign ads that showcase your talents and your flaws of your opponent. So obviously, the more money, the better. And Haley is a great speaker. I like Haley. I like all three candidates. I like Trump. I like Haley. I like DeSantis. I saw her speak at the Reagan Library. When she's actually speaking to people, she's very she's articulate and she's passionate, and I feel like all of them have pros and cons. I'd be happy with any of them, but obviously right now I think Trump would be my go-to. But again, you don't know if he's going to win because of all the things going on. He's the lead. He should be the nominee, hands down, no question. But will he even get that far based on all the litigation against him and things going on in the flat-out shenanigans, trying to pull him off the ballot?
That's right, and he was the favorite in the beginning of 2020. But a lot happened between then and November of 2020.
Well, it was a concerted effort to bring him down, and it succeeded.
It definitely did. This week, Governor Ron DeSantis expressed regret about not having put done more media appearances at the start of his campaign. He said, quote, "I should have just been blanketing. I should have gone on all the corporate shows." What's behind his concern?
Well, I mean, he's playing it down like he wasn't doing it, but he was. I mean, I saw him at the Reagan Library. He was out doing a publicity campaign for his book, which was basically also a publicity campaign for his candidacy. So maybe he could have done more. You know, hindsight's 20/20. I should have done this show. I should have done that show. It's kind of making some excuses, it feels like to me.
Jeff Ahern, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Official during an event in New Hampshire yesterday.
In this time of need, only one person decided to place his country above his
Didn't he run in 2020
but his conviction
for
above
president?
the chattering class.
I believe
And
he
that is
did.
the man I am proud to endorse tonight as the next president of the United States, three-term Congressman from Minnesota, Dean Phillips.
Phillips has one advantage over President Biden. He's on the primary ballot. The state's Democratic primary is Tuesday, but the National Party says it won't recognize the results because it no longer has New Hampshire first on the nominating calendar.
Coming up next, some changing industry trends.
Job cuts at Google have already affected hundreds of employees in the past week alone.
The CEO said the scale of the
More
cuts will
people
be the
losing
same
their
as
jobs.
last year's layoffs that trimmed Google's workforce by 12,000 employees. Some parts of the company won't be hit by this year's changes. And retailer Macy's is also downsizing. The company will be laying off thousands of workers while also closing 5 stores. Roughly 2,300 employees will be let go. That's about 3.5% of the department store chain's workforce.
A Macy's spokesperson says the layoff will allow them to become a more streamlined company. Macy's first opened in 1858, and there are now about 500 of the namesake stores. The company also owns Bloomingdale's chain.
And another round of layoffs comes from online home furnishings retailer Wayfair. The company is cutting 13% of its workforce, or about 1,600 employees.
Wayfair has struggled to rebound following its success amid pandemic lockdowns when homebound shoppers ordered items like furniture and desks online. The company's CEO said today that it hired too many people during that time.
Nearly 20% of the layoffs will be on the corporate team. The affected workers will be offered severance packages.
The job cuts will reportedly save Wayfair an estimated $280 million a year. The Boston-based company had about 14,000 employees as of 2023.
Over 580,000 beds are being recalled due to the risk of breaking or collapsing. Dozens of injuries have been reported.
The beds were made by the Indiana-based company Home Design. They were sold by retailers like Walmart and Wayfair between July 2018 and November 2023.
Consumers are urged to stop using these beds immediately and contact the company for free replacement slats and side rails. In another
import that estimates pressure to take this signal out. A spokesperson said that the layoffs are
are being for a change of Alaska Airlines' Boeing 737. So tell us more about that.
Right, yeah, all eyes on that front. Yesterday, Boeing 7 MAX 9. The Federation issued inspection data from an initial group of 40 planes. The FAA said last that of the 71 grounded planes must be re-inspected before they would review the results. Then the agency would determine if it's safe to allow MAX 9s to resume flying. This follows the Alaska Airlines mid-air count on January 5th. Alaska and United Airlines are the only two U.S. carriers using the aircraft. They've had to cancel thousands of flights so far this month. Just a quick update there.
Yeah, Boeing's got some trouble there. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was about to fly out of Davos from that global summit, and his Boeing 737 had a failure with some oxygen system there, so they had to switch planes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Don Ma, host of NTD Business, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, and a plane skidded off the runway at the International Airport in Rochester, in New York yesterday. Airport officials said 50 passengers and 3 crew members were on board when the aircraft slid onto the grass. An American Airlines spokesman told CBS the jet exited the taxiway due to snowy airfield conditions. The jet left Philadelphia and landed in Rochester at around 4 p.m. Local time when the slide occurred. Passengers were transferred by bus to the terminal. No injuries were reported.
Stay with us. Winners of NTD's International Figure Painting Competition were
from NTD's France correspondent David Vives. The GATT reunion and appears to be the World Economic Forum in Davos on Thursday. Ursula von der Leyen emphasized the defense of democracy and Western geopolitical interests. The EU Commission president says that Russia, which is failing to achieve its strategic goals, now depends on China. Meanwhile, Chinese Premier Li Qiang delivered a straightforward appeal to multinational corporations, urging them to consider investing